Greetings, programs, and welcome back to CK2. Now, I must admit, I don't have a particular plan for this episode. Normally, I try and go in with an idea of what at least I want to do for that episode. But at the moment, after everything that happened last time, my hands are tied a little bit. Now, in part, that's because our cash reserves were severely depleted by all the non-starting wars and threats to the throne last time, which was a good thing in a way that it was a non-starter, but it was an expensive non-starter. And while that will accumulate over time, we have to, pass that time first. And there's not a lot else I can do right now. If this was a newer version of the game, there's maybe things I could set up via plots, or I could concentrate on one of the mystic societies for a while or something like that. But at the moment, the kind of hard time limit until I can next definitely do something is about 5 years from now, when the truce with England finishes. Now, that might finish sooner if young King Randolph here were to meet an unfortunate accident, or if Dorjander III were to pop his clogs of old age, which is probably the more likely way he will die at this point. So, there might be a bit of action sooner rather than later. On the other hand, he might stubbornly last the next 5 years, but by that point I'll have been able to accrue a fairly decent amount of cash and make some upgrades to my holdings. I could also, of course, put my Chancellor somewhere to try and fabricate a claim, but again, at the moment, the immediate problem is no cash, and because it's completely RNG in CK2, and it might happen in a week, or it might literally, take 5+ years. It's all a bit kind of like, considering how old Dorjander is, fabricating a claim right now is not really a good use of time. So what I'm going to do is, through the magic of editing, just cut all that bit out. Basically, I'm going to be sitting here for a while, waiting for stuff to happen, and just accumulating cash. And if something does happen, then obviously we'll come back in. But for the time being, there's not a huge amount that's going on in the realm. It's mostly just recovery of manpower. Although actually, my actual manpower is pretty good at the moment, but my retinue still need to reinforce a little bit. But it's just waiting for the money apart from anything else. Now, we might get some, having unpaused it, we might get some changes in the Tanistry succession, which it looks like we are. It was Duncan, who would actually be a pretty decent next leader. I mean, his stats aren't brilliant, but those are all improvable with ambitions. Plus, he's got enough time to run through those ambition chains because he's fairly young. But it looks like Edgar here is taking the lead. And, I mean, he's older, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But some of his stats, like his learning stat is pretty good, but these middle stats, not so much. And if we're going to go to war, then obviously the martial stat matters a lot. The stewardship stat matters a lot. And diplomacy is decent, but it's really these two here that are kind of important over the next couple of years. So, yeah, this is the downside of... no, it's Lawside, what is it? The downside of Tanistry is... are we nominating Duncan at the moment? It's quite difficult. Like, you have a vote, but it's really difficult to influence other people to... Yeah, I think we are actually... Yeah, it's difficult to get people to vote for who you want. You can't rig things in your favour. And it's a pity there isn't a mechanism for Tanistry where you can bribe people to vote for the Tanist that you want, or somehow persuade them if you have like a high diplomacy skill or something like that. But I don't know, maybe that's in newer versions of the game, because I don't think I've played Tanistry in newer versions of the game. So we'll maybe just have a quick look around as well. Although I think I did that at the end of the last episode. Europe's a bit of a mess at the moment. Aquitaine and the HRE are both embroiled in numerous internal wars. So as you can see, it's just a complete patchwork right now. Sweden is also being attacked by the Duke of Vestergotland. So Sweden effectively, if they win, which it looks like they're going to, the territory of Sweden might actually expand a bit. Which is one of the things I was thinking about maybe doing is trying to fabricate a claim on, a bit of the Swedish territory. It might be a little bit difficult, but still possible, just to get a toehold there, basically. I also noticed that Estonia has taken over chunks of Finland, so Finland is now currently split between Scotland 2 and pagan Estonia, so I don't know how the Finns watching are going to feel about that. And on the rest of the map, well, the Suhailids remain relatively stable for now, as do the Byzantines. And I think that's it pretty much. So, yeah, we'll jump ahead, and if something happens, well, we shall come back in at that point. So, welcome back, and I have a confession to make. The eagle-eyed among you may have spotted that the date hasn't jumped much at all, and that's because a thing happened. I'm gonna fess up to this. I could have made it all vanish with the magic of editing, and you'd have never known. But I feel compelled to tell you because I've really never had to do this before for this reason. I went back to a save, and because I don't have autosaves enabled, I had to go back to the point where I saved it at the point of making the cut after doing the intro. And the reason why I did this is, well, I made a mistake. And it was such a fundamental, stupid mistake, as in I completely forgot how some core game mechanics worked, that I decided that actually it was worth scrapping that previous bit of recording. So I played for about 20 minutes and then started recording and then had about another half an hour of recorded stuff. And at that point, I made the really stupidly huge mistake. And the reason I made the mistake is the last couple of days I haven't slept so well. Well, the last couple of days when I was recording this yesterday. And so I was feeling a bit dopey, not, at my sharpest. And so subsequently I, chose a thing in a dialogue box and then immediately did a massive facepalm and thought, what the hell did I just do? Because I realised that I'd forgotten some fairly important game mechanics. And so I then thought, well, actually, the rest of this recording's probably not very good either. So, I mean, normally I just roll with it. I just go with whatever it is I've done. And it's, if I made a mistake, then so be it. But in this case, it was such a stupid thing to have done. And it was purely because my brain was not firing on all cylinders that I decided that, I'm going to hit the reset button. None of that stuff ever happened, but I'm going to try and do more or less the things I did, and whether or not it produces the same results in game, of course, we'll just have to wait and see. But that then does mean that if it does happen the same way, then I have some foreknowledge. So yeah, I don't like doing this, and the only other times, well, or maybe it was just one time, I can't remember, but there was one occasion I can definitely recall where I had to go back to a save and just re-record more or less an entire episode because the game crashed. You might be wondering why I have autosaves turned off, by the way. It's because it kind of messes up the recording when it's doing the autosaving. So it's something I have turned on when I'm just playing normally, but when I'm recording, I have to make sure it's turned off, otherwise it messes things up slightly. So, so there we are. I don't know if that is that worthy of a slap on the wrist, or is that fair enough? It was such a stupid mistake. It was such an, oh my god, how did I forget that's how the game works moment that I can't even quite begin to describe it. Anyway, so what we're going to do, one of the things I did do before we probably make another jump cut, is actually try and switch to max crown authority, because as you can see, this gives me bonus troops, and it also means vassals can't wage war on their own, but it does give me a pretty significant minus 30 vassal opinion. Now, I don't know if this is going to go through or not. It did last time round, but we'll see if it actually has any particular effect. The other thing that I might do that is actually going to be a bit different is maybe cause a little bit of chaos in England, because I like causing a bit of chaos in England. So we're going to we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to see if anybody else is as unhappy with Randolph of England as I am. I mean, I'm unhappy with him. I've got nothing against him personally. I'm just unhappy with him because he's a caption guy. Interesting. That's actually giving me a thumbs up, but they won't actually join. You know what? We'll just be lazy and use the auto-invite plotters thing. I also, you might have noticed there's a couple of things there. Yeah, I invited gave out some minor titles. And also, if this holds true, yeah, we have a new Tannis. So we did have Duncan, who would have been a pretty good Tannis. Well, not pretty good, but decent. But now we have Edgar, who is less decent. He's got a good learning stat, but his other stats aren't that good. So that might change, that might not. I think I already went over in the intro bit about the age of Dorjander, didn't I? Yes, yeah, I covered that already. So yeah, that was all, like, that part was recorded yesterday. So if I forget things and repeat myself from that intro couple of minutes, yeah, that'll be why. Let's just check the Alan Caption Guy of Kent. And I've got 2 votes at the moment. Duke Murig's voting for me. Man, if I could get just like one more person to vote for me, that would be pretty nice, but it's probably not going to happen. I would need another Duke vassal that was my vassal in England. And at that point, you know, at that point, it won't be having to fabricate claims and just have wars every so often against England. At that point, I might just be able to get on the throne of England just through the elective process. But at that point, then I also will have to try and change the laws of England, because we'll have Tanistry in Scotland and then elective in England. So it'll be very hard to get the same person on the throne. So we'll have to plan ahead for that. We'll have to keep in mind that, you know, it would be good for that to happen with a younger king. Particularly because then that will give me the time. You know, if Dorjander here were elected as the King of England right now, he wouldn't have time to change the laws. There's no way he's going to live another 10 years. It would be extremely unlikely. Anyway, as Murig just voted for himself. Oh, damn it, Murig. Anyway, you're supposed to be a loyal McJedi, except, well, I'm not sure that phrase really applies, does it? So I'm going to do what the original plan was, which was an excellently constructed sentence in terms of grammar, as I'm sure you'll all agree, and skip ahead here, just build up some cash, and we'll see if things work out how they worked out last time. So we've had a minor thing, well, comparatively minor, it could actually come in very useful. The Pope has excommunicated King Randolph at the behest of the Duke of Hereford, one of his own dukes, I think. Yeah, it is. It's one of his own vassals has had him excommunicated, so suck it, Randolph. Now, this did happen last time, but actually it was Euthura only over in Scotland too that was the puller of that particular trigger. So I don't know what it is about King Randolph, but yeah, he's been excommunicated twice over now. Maybe they're just maybe they're put off by the fact that he's 16 and already bald. Poor guy, as if he doesn't have enough going on. 16 and bald, he's already been excommunicated just the moment he's turned 16, pretty much. The plot at the moment, by the way, I've picked up some extra plotters, so we're now over 100%, so we're just waiting for this to fire. But yeah, I mean, just the excommunication alone, theoretically you can use that as an excuse to go to war with somebody. If we actually look at the there we go, excommunicated ruler. However, that doesn't overcome the truce breaker penalty, and as you can see there, well, what would happen if I prosecuted that war and won would be that I'd basically get some piety and prestige. Randolph would actually get the excommunication lifted, but he would lose the throne, and it would be Duke Alan of Kent, the current heir in the succession, in the elective succession, that would actually then become the King of England. So we could do that and take the massive hit to both prestige and -5 diplomacy, that would not be good for a younger king, but honestly with Dorjander it wouldn't matter that much, because the chances of him even living another 5 years are probably not that good because he's 71. But we're going to wait and see how this plot plays out. In fact, the excommunication, we can just see that. Wow, that's added because Randolph has been excommunicated. That has added a huge number of potential plotters. My plot power is shooting up right now, so this might actually happen sooner rather than later. You know what? We'll stick around. Normally, I'd go back and do another jump cut, but we'll stick around because we've added just so much plot power. That excommunication has made him so unpopular. There we go. We can actually free investiture. You know what? We'll approve and get him into even more trouble with the Pope. We'll send a little gift. We'll sprinkle some gold on the Chancellor of England. And see if that will persuade him to join my plot as well. Which it has. Because if you're unaware, by the way, if you get the kind of... You've got a thumbs up and a thumbs down, and then you've got the people that are just, you know, they're a bit in between. For a little bit of cash persuasion. For a little bit of incentivizing. 45, no, that's not worth it. 45 for only like +6 plot power. But yeah, you have to decide how much it is worth it, and I'm guessing it's that much because they are gluttonous, yes. Oh, Randolph! Oh, Randolph Caption Guy! He's revoked the Duchy of Somerset. That's going to annoy his vassals even more. Oh, Randolph, you're playing into my hands so beautifully. So if I can assassinate him, I'm hoping... Oh, that's interesting. It's still the old portrait. Yeah, if I can assassinate him, I'm hoping this destabilizes England once again. And at that point, you know, we've got several reasons why we could go to war. You know, people with claims. We've also got the de jure claim on Leicester as part of being the Duchy of York. So, yeah, this is just me absolutely opportunistically causing strife in the Kingdom of England and hoping to profit from it. Now, we could also, at the same time this is going on, hold a grand tournament, but no, we are trying to build up a cash stockpile. I did actually get some barracks building in Dagobah already, and that will give me about an extra 50 troops, something like that. So it's not a huge bump, but you know, it all helps. Mayor Maurice of Droitwich, let everyone know about my plot. Is he... I guess maybe it's the arbitrary trait which triggered that. I'm not sure if this is... Like, my understanding is when this happens, it's because of the traits of the plotters. But I'm not 100% sure. It's not like he's got the honest trait. Or I think drunkard is the other one that you have to watch out for, is my understanding. But I don't know. Maybe arbitrary is... one that counts as well. But anyway, so, you know, my reputation with Randolph was already in the toilet. Now it's going to be even more in the toilet. Yeah, -90 to -100. But the plot still goes on. Somebody claiming they would make a better spy master, which they would, but he's the Duke of York and you're just some dude. So I'm sorry, just some dude, but you're going to have to stay put. I did make some changes with the council, as you can see. Coleman McJedi there. And by the way, I think I said in the last episode that, oh yeah, Coleman doesn't seem like a very Jedi name. No, apparently there was actually a Jedi whose first name was Coleman, so that was in fact entirely accurate. It wasn't that they were Scottish and became fake Scottish. No, it's on the Jedi name list apparently. So yeah, Coleman McJedi with the genius trait, whom I have married to somebody with some decent-ish traits, but mainly I went for the martial trait. Yeah, I've made him the Chancellor, but equally he'd be a decent marshal. He'd be a decent. He'd actually be better than my current spy master, and you know, he's just good across the board. But sadly, I couldn't find somebody with the genius trait to marry him to. Apparently, and here's a little tidbit for you if you're playing an up-to-date version of the game. In the character finder these days, you can search by trait. So if it was the up-to-date version, I could just I can spell. Yeah, I could, you know, type in the trait and it would be fine, and it would actually find the, you know, the people on the trait, and then I could use the filters to find, eligible women to marry this character to, but not back in this version of the game. So that's one of those little things they've added at some point, which is actually super useful. Well, if it's true, I don't think I've actually gone and tested it out. It might have been somebody trolling, but I don't think it was. I think that was an actual thing they've added. So, yes, let's unpause. Aquitaine, by the way. There we go. Actually, let's pause it. I don't want to look away while something interesting or important might be happening. Aquitaine has basically won the civil wars apart from the Independence League War for the Duke of Portugal. So yeah, that's that's looking a lot tidier now. They've reconsolidated. That was a serious challenge to the power of Raoulf II of Aquitaine, or Raoulf II rather. But yeah, the HRE is still a complete mess, as you can see, and Castile seems to have broken up a bit as well. But that's a Crown Authority war, so that's not going to break the country or anything like that. Yeah, let's check the current HRE wars just while we're. So the Canaries, the Canaries are being invaded, which is actually. I don't think it's that big of a war. He's got. That's one for the crown, two for the crown, and three for the crown, and he's hostile to somebody as well. So that's actually three crown wars. So who's this? Dirk II. Yeah, he's not going to last probably. Dutch, interesting. I don't think I've seen a Dutch culture character becoming the Holy Roman Emperor before. But anyway, yeah, he's unlikely to last. Apparently they don't like him very much. So, yeah, we were waiting for this plot to kick off, basically, and also waiting for some money to accumulate. We can even put the speed up by one. Why not? Is there anyone else that'll... Duke of Hereford? He's greedy, so he'll be expensive. We won't bother. One child lacks a guardian. And we'll find somebody who's... Oh, it's my son. Oh, he's not that important in terms of stats, so you know what? We'll place him with one of the vassals. Because that gives you... If it's immediate family, if it's direct family, you can place it with a vassal and it'll give you a nice opinion bump. So if I send him to Moray, plus 20. So that's... Because he's... because we have Tanistry, because who this character is brought up by is not that important in the scheme of things, because there are so many McJedis at this point. It's actually preferable to place him in terms of then increasing my opinion with somebody. Oh, here we go. It's kicking off. My co-conspirator, Maud, has procured a poisonous viper and sends word that it will soon dig its fangs into King Randolph. It's always seemed slightly a pity that you don't get to choose the plots. It just kind of randomly fires as to which particular variation of the assassination plot it can be. And I think there's about, 4 or 5 of them? I'm not 100% certain. It might even be more than that. But it'd be nice if you could, sort of approve a particular plan or say, no, that seems too risky or too far-fetched, or let's try something else. I don't know. They could have maybe put a bit more interactivity into the assassination chains, but as it is, once you've set it going, it's basically a matter of RNG. It's a matter of waiting it for it to happen. And obviously, the higher the plot power, the more likely it is it'll succeed. Someone's fabricating a claim. That's not really an issue. How's the law change doing? We've got literally me and Grandmary of Dumfries voting for it so far. Oh! I'm sorry, Caption Guy, but he was asking for it. He was excommunicated and he was revoking duchies from his vassals. So, I mean, this hasn't massively changed the balance of power yet, but this might well... I'm just screwing with England at this point. I am absolutely just screwing with England. So, the snake performed its duty with aplomb and pumped King Randolph full of its deadly venom. Unfortunately, the serpent was caught and the seller has revealed my complicity. Well, the plot was already revealed, so this is going to be a blow to my reputation, I think. So, everyone's going to know it was me. But now we have an even younger king of England, and I'm really hoping this sparks off another civil war. What are his vassals like? Oh yeah, no, look at that. That's a civil war brewing. That is absolutely a civil war brewing. The Duchy of Cornwall, or the Duke of Cornwall, is the only one that doesn't hate him. They're just kind of neutral and on the fence. And then the only vassals that do like him are all barons, so... Teehee. Oh, caption guy. You know, I'm going to, there's going to be so many bees in my pillow after this. And it's almost gone to the point where, it's actually kind of hard to sleep without the bees in my pillow. Maybe this is why I've been having sleeping issues. Caption guy hasn't been interfering with my mattress and my pillow and just leaving them unadulterated and not full of stinging insects or like chili powder, or I'm trying to think of the other nasty things he's put in there. So, it's almost at the point where it's like, how do I sleep on a bed that hasn't been sabotaged in some way? That's it. That'll be why I've been sleeping poorly recently. So is that still the tournament message? So full-blown succession crisis. So there's a thing that could spark off a civil war. That could be it. Yeah, so, okay, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But this is absolutely, this is me rubbing my hands with glee at this point. This also might have reset the truce. Yes, it has. And that's the other benefit of having bumped off this this previous unfortunate hapless king. I can now just declare war, which is actually kind of an attractive prospect because Dorjander's got a good military score, therefore can raise a bunch of troops. Edgar, on the other hand, wow, his military score's actually gone down. That was 5 before. How's it gone down to 3? Edgar's going to be fairly rubbish. I wish he could still be Duncan. So, now that the truce is gone, now that England is seriously destabilised, I mean, me declaring war might bring England together. It might, ideally a civil war would trigger, and then I would use that opportunity to swoop in. But if I check the ledger, I'm pretty sure I can take England at the moment. Because his vassals not liking him is going to hurt his chances of raising troops, essentially. No, that's vassals in realm, independent states, there we go. And 25,000. I'm not too far off the top of the list, actually, although Egypt, which is the Sulahids, or how you pronounce that, I can't remember, they're so far ahead of everybody else. Byzantium can also raise a fair whack of troops. But I'm not doing too badly at all. England's not that far behind, though, so I've got to be careful. However, still, I think it's worth the risk. And this is basically what I did last time. The circumstances were a little different, but yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to press our de jure claim for... what's his claim on Lancaster like? Will not be inherited unless pressed in war. Do I want to go for Lancaster rather than Leicester? I'm wary of making, I don't want to make him an overly powerful duke. I think I've talked about this in previous episodes, is there is a risk to having dukes that are very powerful. And they can then decide that they want to throw their weight around, and they have a very good chance of doing it. So maybe I might just stick with Leicester. We'll see what other ones are available. Hereford, we could claim for... right, he's got a claim on just bits in Hereford generally. Or should we just go with the... It's a pity I can't, you know, have a press all claims Cassius Belli, but no, I think we'll stick with the Leicester. I think we'll stick with the safe option. And then whoever succeeds Dorjanda, we'll start trying to fabricate claims at that point. So we'll do this. We'll kick off this war. And I think as another bonus... No, okay, that war finished anyway, but even if it hadn't, it would have brought those the death of the king would have brought those troops back anyway. So yeah, so we'll raise the troops. We'll actually do the usual thing and stand down the foreign troops, and that includes Tetushi, because otherwise those troops are just sucking up cash. Well, the game really does. I don't know if it's just because this is an older version, it runs less well, but when you're moving around the map particularly, it does not scroll smoothly at all. So yeah, let's get all the troops together. We're probably going to want to... Well, this is going to be a fairly big army, so we'll... Where are the English forming up? Right, this might inadvertently help England in that... defending versus foreigners, yes, I'm kind of helping out England, but once this war's over, young Alan is hopefully going to be in trouble once again. So this is an absolutely, completely 100% opportunistic land grab, and the only thing that can spoil it is either Dorjanda III popping his clogs, or else somebody deciding now's another good time to start a civil war. But, I mean, what are the chances that could happen again so quickly after the first time, right? Well, CK2, you know, anything's possible. We could try calling in Yuthura as well, but for one thing, she's sick, and for another thing, she's already embroiled in a war, so we'll leave that for now, because her troops are already tied up, basically. So, anyway, so, yes, Leicester, and that's actually quite good from a point of view of sieging as well, because there's a whole bunch of rivers between it and other provinces, which means that anybody attacking into it and attacking my troops are actually in Leicester. They're going to be fighting at a disadvantage, so they're going to have a penalty for crossing the river, essentially. So that's all well and good, but then, of course, if the English troops get in there first and decide to just sit there, that might be a problem as well, but it doesn't look like they are. So I'm just grouping up chunks of the army as they come in together. Right, that's 10k. That's a 10k stack, and we'll march that into Leicester, and then we'll have roughly another 10k stack. In fact, it'll be slightly over that. Oh, Dumfries. That's just the Dumfriesian army. That's actually, you know what? I don't think we can directly help the Dumfriesian army, but we can see if we can march them there in time to... We might be able to do it. Dumfries, I don't know if they've raised mercenaries, but they might have. So yeah, we got our troops there in time, but... Well, we've got the superior numbers. We might actually win this fight, but it's going to be a fairly close run thing. I didn't even check the generals. I should have checked the generals. That was a bit bad of me. Nah, the English got reinforcements there. Okay. So, that's a bit unfortunate. We only had one good general in that stack. So, we'll... Yeah, we've got some... That's fairly rubbish in terms of generals, all things considered. We'll stick some kind of middling generals there, because I don't know. Once you've started an army sieging, you can't check the generals. So did we lose, like, huge numbers of troops there? I didn't see what the troop losses were like. Did I say we lost 18? That can't be right. Unless it doesn't fully count because... I'm a bit confused. Okay, we did actually lose like 5,000, but that battle hasn't registered. Because it was a vassal army? The war system, like if there's a CK3, which I'm sure there will be at some point, Wars will need an overhaul. Wars will definitely need an overhaul. Because it's a little bit messy at the moment, to be honest. Right, so we could... Yeah, we've lost a big chunk of troops there, which is really unfortunate. But we still should have enough to get the job done. This is not quite how it went last time. Yeah, I mean the good news about, I lost a big chunk of troops, but the good news about that not counting towards war score is that that probably would have put us considerably more in the negative for war score than we would be at the moment. Gyrick McJedi is a brilliant strategist. Well, we could use more good military men at the moment. Just looking for somebody who's not... she's alright. Courtier in the Knights of Santiago. Let's get them married. More McJedis! We must have more McJedis. More of the McJedis. I think my retinues must be in this army, because this army is not reinforcing at all. We were also maybe not that far off the point where we could where am I looking? Mercenaries. Completely the wrong tab. Yeah, well, we could maybe raise some mercenaries, but not a big band of mercenaries. Well, a reasonably big band, actually. Where's the kind of mid-sized ones? Saxon band, for instance, 26 a month. Actually, they're pretty cheap, all things considered. We could do that. But is it worth doing that just now? You don't want to do it too soon if you're going to need them, because then they're just sitting around sucking up cash. But if you do it too late, then, you know, they, like any other troops that you've just raised, need time for their morale to max out. So, yeah. Right, I wonder if... England's armies must have been fairly depleted, because I think they were actively fighting in Aquitaine's wars. So I think that works in my favour. And I think the death, I probably should have checked that, but yeah, the death of Randolph broke their truce with Aquitaine anyway, so there's no danger of Aquitaine turning up with like 30,000 troops, which would spoil things ever so slightly. Right, let's actually speed it up a little bit, because these sieges are going to take a little while. This is quite a well-defended province. Who's that just died? Oh, okay, that's okay. The Duke of Lothian, I think, will probably manage to arrange his own bride. So yeah, once we get this this county sieged, we'll get back into positive war score, and I think we'll get some ticking war score up to a point. And then at that stage, we'll just need to, I don't know, siege more, win some battles. We might even... Is it worth trying to sneakily take out that retinue army? Can we do that quickly enough? We should be able to. It's only a small army. There we go. March them back into Lincoln. So, yeah, splitting up the armies, you know, was a good idea in terms of not having one big blob taking attrition, but it then kind of backfired in terms of me going to try and save the ass of those Dumfriesian troops, which didn't work out so well. How's Scotland 2 doing? Could we... they've got a revolt going as well. So, yeah, I don't think they'll want to come into the war. Right, levy reinforcements is that's, you know, quite useful at the moment. Although I don't think it becomes truly useful unless you stand down troops. Macbeth's been just Macbeth. He's been imprisoned apparently. I got hopeful for a moment there that it might mean I would have some prisoners to ransom, because that's one of the, like, you can go to war for exactly that reason, just to ransom prisoners, and if you get some good ones, you know, you can make potentially quite a lot of cash out of a war that way. But that's not really my purpose this time. If I get some nice prisoners, then so be it. But that's more of a side benefit. Oh, and okay, well, you know how I said that sometimes, you know, CK2 can crash. Yeah, guess what? CK2 just crashed. Wow. Okay, so. Okay. This was the episode that wasn't, I guess? Do we call this one alt history? Because you know what? I'm going to have to go back and do the same thing again and start from the same place again. And we're going to have to go through this whole rigmarole again. And I'm going to have to hope that it works out as well again. So, okay then. You know what? This is Captain Guy's revenge. I don't know how he's done it. He's obviously got some remote kill switch for CK2. That, you know, if it's going against him, then he can, you know, he can do that. Yeah, yesterday was 100% my fault and just being dopey and tired. And this time round, we've had a genuine bona fide crash. And it might have actually eaten several minutes of footage. So we'll see how it works out. But at least part of that video file will be recoverable. So you know what? We're going to put this out as an episode. And then we're going to have to try and do the same thing all over again. Oh, Gordon Bennett. Sometimes things do just stack up one on top of the other. But yeah, I could go and try and start all over again and start afresh, but then there's no way I'm going to have this video done for tomorrow. So let's just go with this. And then, you know, we can imagine what might have been and we can try and recreate it once again. So there we go. CK2 has decided to crash and, now we are at where we are at, so hooray. So hopefully you enjoyed this alt history episode. Yeah, let's just go with that. And if you did, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.